Hi everyone, welcome to Gradcast, the official radio show and podcast for the Society of Graduate Students here at Western. I'm Yousuf, and I'm joined here with my co-host,
Francesco Colosimo.
Awesome, and we are here with a couple of our SOGS Commissioners, Francesca Alexander, who is currently doing her master's in music, and also Denise Kamyuka, who's doing her PhD in sports and management. So welcome, everybody.
Well, thank you.
Hello. Hi. Thanks.
Hi. Awesome. So I think to begin, tell us a bit about yourself, Francesca and Denise, a bit about your background and how you came to be interested in being a SOGS commissioner. So Francesca, if you want to go first.
Sure. So I did my undergrad at Western, and then I decided to do my master's here. And I really wanted to get involved with like the greater Western community, because being a music student, I felt like I was very much in like the music bubble. Like I only talked to musicians, I only hung out with musicians. So, and I always had an interest in advocacy work, especially when it comes to advocating for women or non-binary people. And that's really just due to, having strong female figures in my life. My grandmother comes to example. She was a very strong advocate for females, and which was unusual for, I guess, like the time she was born in and like the country she was born in. Like she's from Malaysia. She was pulled out of school when she was very early. So a lot of her life, she pushed like my mom and then subsequently like grandchildren to get educated. And that was kind of like what started my interest in like advocating for women. So I remember I saw like the election call out for the Gender Concerns Commissioner. And I was like, I think this is a really good opportunity. I would get to meet people that are like-minded, that are outside of the faculty, and I would actually like get to do something with my interests. So that's what I did.
We'll talk more about your specific role in a while. Denise, meanwhile, would you like to share how you came to be interested?
Yeah, so I am, like you mentioned, I'm doing my second year of my PhD right now. I am originally from Botswana, so I only moved to North America 2016. Started in the States and then came here to do my PhD. And I came here honestly with the intention of studying, and we're gonna talk about this a little later, but with the intention of just studying females in sports and social entrepreneurship in that space. And my supervisor would, I'd read papers and come with all these ideas, and my supervisor would be like, yeah, but, oh man, I need you to bring something that's, that's like rooted more in knowledge from where you're from, and not rooted more in alternative thought and not just Western thought. And it just kept flying over my head until it was time to do my comprehensive exams. And she was just like, yeah, I think you should do post-colonial studies. That was not my intention. I've never thought of doing post-colonial studies, but honestly, opening up that world and starting to see that, and really like lifting that veil of just how the system has been built up to deceive and keep us in a certain place really, really got me, I guess, angry would be the word, like raged. And it was just around this time as I was studying for my comprehensive exams that the call for commissioners came out, and I saw the call for Racial Equity and Inclusivity Commissioner, and I was like, I have to do this. Like I have to. And so that's how I got involved. And it's been an amazing learning process, but also a very empowering process as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what struck me from both of your sentiments is that I think it's really great that you have almost an emotional connection to not only your research, but the reasonings why you chose to be commissioners at SOGS, and especially for the research, I think that'll lead to really great outcomes, because you can draw, on emotion and, personal experience to, to drive that research forward. So I think that's really great. And so obviously you just told us about, why you wanted to be commissioners. And I was wondering if the both of you can tell us, more about your roles and maybe what you do on a day-to-day, and some of the details about your roles. And we'll start with Francesca and then go into Denise.
Yeah. I mean, essentially I've taken, especially with this year and the limitations of like being in a pandemic, like I've taken this role and I've kind of made it more of like creating like events, either educational or social or a combination of both, that are educational, that really fit into my portfolio. And then also kind of just like are events that also allow people to start a discussion. I think that's really important. I like hearing what other people have to say. I like hearing arguments. I do. I truly, I think it expands your mindset, right? And what you think about. So that's really essentially what I do, other than like answering emails. It's a lot of, yeah, it's a lot of just like planning and executing events and making sure they're still like within, like there's still an actual aim and goal with them. Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Denise?
Yeah, I have to definitely resonate with that. I feel like part of my role is learning how to find emails in Gmail. The way Gmail structures emails is so infuriating. But yeah, so there's a lot of that I do. I think, and it's very different day to day, and it's also very motivated or driven by the pulse. It's driven by what my constituents want and what they're trying to do. And so yeah, there is a lot of responding to emails, getting in on meetings where I'm invited because certain councils want to start thinking about anti-racist practices, or people have just want to start thinking about how to better just diversify and make their spaces more inclusive. And so I've been called in and on a few, invited really. It's been an absolute privilege to actually to firstly see what's going on around the campus, and what different initiatives are going on, but also just to be able to speak in and weigh in. I am part of the anti-racist committee, and with that, I think with this role, I'm able to bring quite a few things to that table, where as a team, because I think with anti-racism work, there's just so much that needs to happen that it's a lot. It's a lot for one person to chew, and to have a team that is dedicated to that, and have a committee that's dedicated to that is really, really, really beneficial. And so being able to take these the initiatives that other people are doing, concerns that other people have in their different departments, and bring them to that committee, I think has been very helpful. So I guess that's part of my role, and a lot of meetings. I have a lot of meetings. But also, just to go back to my heart, and I guess this is something that I'm actually even saying this out loud again for accountability for anybody who listens here. But part of my heart, even at the beginning, was always just to try amplify voices of marginalized students. And there's been a lot in the first few months that I've been here, that I've had a lot of events going on, and that's something that I do a lot, is put on events for constituents. But I would like to get back to thinking about how that can effectively be done. So amplifying racialized voices.
Right. So there is quite a bit of collaborative work between commissioners as well. And I know that Francesca and you, both of you, have formed a SOGS book club. Tell us more about that and how that's going. Either of you, maybe Francesca, want to say something?
Yeah, I'm really happy that that's a collaborative effort. One, because I mean, I like working with Denise. That's completely. I love doing that. And two, it's just I think the actual like, I think this semester we made a really conscious effort of picking books that are written by racialized females, that are written just by like trying to like connect both of our like portfolios, and then also kind of like expanding it out of like, you know, like when most, I don't know, when I read most things about race beforehand, it's always kind of like focusing on like men, and I mean like that that's life. But it's been really nice to really find books, I think, that both also touch us personally. The book we just did in February, Nervous Conditions, really we had a really great conversation about that, and I think it was really, I think we both, you had a personal connection to that, Denise, I believe, and then I mean, from reading it, I was like, I also relate to it. So it was really nice to like have a conversation where like it was all women too, which was really interesting. So it was really nice to have that conversation where we could all like just kind of talk and relate to each other, even though we come from different backgrounds. We all felt the same core like feelings and ideas from that book. I don't know if you have anything to speak on that, Denise. But,
I'd like to think that we approach this book club as with an intersectional lens, where we understand that we all come in with at different levels, with different pressures, with different backgrounds, and it's a place for solidarity. We did have a few males register for the book club, but they didn't show up. I want to like open up that invitation still, because like Francesca said, like there's just so much in this patriarchal world that we need to deconstruct. But I also believe wholeheartedly that decolonization cannot happen without really criticizing or scrutinizing just patriarchal oppression and systems. And to have brothers come in and be in solidarity in that war, in that fight, it makes a big difference. It's a conversation that we should be having across sexes.
I suspect I may have registered for it, but it was that AGM day that made it very difficult. But I hope to be there in your next meeting. Wow, could you tell us just briefly what Nervous Conditions was a bit?
Denise.
Yeah, okay. Where do we start? Nervous Conditions is a book that was set in pre-independence Zimbabwe. And it tells a story of a family or a girl in a family that lives in a rural area that then moves to an urban area where she goes to a missionary school. And so it really touches on colonization of the mind, to be very honest. On face value, and this is something that came out of the conversation, on face value, it feels like a feminist lens. But we had the privilege of having a PhD student, Chinelo, her name is Chinelo. She's been studying this for the past 2 years. So she came in and she also like weighed in the conversation, and she really opened up our eyes to the fact that, no, this is not a feminist position. These issues, this nervous condition is actually experienced by every character in this book, male or female. All of them are fighting between holding on to their traditional norms and still living up to or fitting into that aspirational white supremacist ideal of what a human being. So what gives us global citizenship? What gives us citizenship, right? And so you see that in all the different dynamics, all the different relationships. And so that's basically what the book was about. And I think anybody who'd read it would take out their own, would find a place or a character that they can identify with and find areas where they too struggle or start realizing that, wow, I've really internalized this thing and I haven't seen how I'm moving in this space in a racialized way, in a way where I'm being oppressed and I'm almost consenting to that oppression.
That idea of, you know, colonization of the mind as a whole, I thought that was a super interesting kind of takeaway from that book, because obviously it was from the perspective maybe of one person, but to then branch that out to, you know, maybe a feeling that a lot of people are feeling in today's day and age. I think that's, you know, that's a really good lesson to take from that. And I guess, not to put you both on the spot, but what is one book you would say from the book club that you would recommend to our listeners here today? And there's got to be no reasoning or justification, but, you know, just off the top of your head, like, what was your favorite?
Francesca's been at this a little longer than I have.
Yeah, well, I'm also thinking about like the list of books that we wanted to do, like for the like throughout the semester. So I'm gonna pull from that too, ones that we haven't officially read yet. But one of the books that just immediately strikes me was Americana.
I knew you were gonna take that book
because it's good. It's a good book.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's a really good book. I enjoy her writing. I mean, I think she's an amazing writer. And like also just watching her TED Talks, I'm like, wow, she's so cool. I want to be her. But just reading about that, because that I might be wrong because I haven't read that book in a while, but I remember just being so connected to the idea of like because being an immigrant myself, like coming to North America, and then all of a sudden like having to negotiate, you know, like how you look, especially like if you come from a country. So for example, I think the protagonist in that book came from Nigeria. And so she was, you know, surrounded by Black people all the time. And then she goes to America, and all of a sudden being a Black woman is completely different. Right. And I mean, Denise, you can obviously speak to that more than I can, but I totally get that just from like, even just being an immigrant, like when I moved to Canada, I was like one of 2 non-white people in my elementary school. So like, it was very different for me coming from Singapore. Singapore is so diverse. And then like arriving in my like little white town in Canada, like, oh, this is different. I'm at the age of like 4 or 5. I realized I'm like, this is different. I am not, I might not be safe. Maybe that's, you know, and it's a scary thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the fact that we're both voting for Americana means like everybody needs to read Americana. And when we do, please join the book club, please. It's an amazing book. It's, you won't want, I've read it twice. Like you won't want to put it down. It's such a good book. So yeah, Americana, hands down.
So I guess I was just wondering, in your experience, what have you enjoyed the most in your roles, and that really gives you the energy to continue on and march on and make more progress? So maybe Denise, would you like to go first, and then Francesca?
Yeah, I've met amazing people. I've been here almost 2 years and felt very siloed, very isolated. And I mean, the truth is, you know, you walk out your door and you can like count the number of like Black people, all right, or just racialized people like that you come across, and it's felt very alienating, very very lonely. And so now being in these spaces where not only do we all have the same like interest and heart, but we also just get to like hang out sometimes. Like our meetings start off with just banter, and so that has been, I think I've met some amazing people. That's been my favorite part. But again, I'm expecting even better things. So as I start working more in this role, I think I'll have more things to say towards actually advocating for my constituents, and how that has been such a source of satisfaction, really.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you've met so many terrific people that you can work with, that you can collaborate and learn from as well, and having that stronger sense of community and friends. I think that just changes our experiences so much more. And Francesca, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I have to echo Denise's sentiment. Like meeting the people I get to work with has really made this this position really worthwhile for me. And I also really appreciate, I think I mentioned this before, but just the discussions we have during events or anything, and just hearing what people, you know, got out of the movie we showed, or like the book we read, or whatever. Or it makes me really happy that like people are like, you know, either they're getting educated and they're formulating opinions, and they also feel like the event is a good place to start sharing and like talking and discussing. I really enjoy that. It makes me happy that like this like little event that I've planned has like planted a seed in their minds, and like now they're thinking and they're talking, and like we're just having an open discussion. And I think that's a really great thing from this position.
Francesca, can you give us an example of a recent event that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I think I would honestly the as I again the book club meeting was great with just the discussion. I remember when I hosted the film screening of Period End of Sentence. I had a nice discussion with the girls who showed up, and we just, you know, talked about like we just like casually bantering throughout the movie, and she's like, oh, like I didn't realize that was a thing, or like, oh, like that's really interesting, like I'm gonna look that up and I'm gonna like go off and like do my own research on that. And I'm like, that's so cool. I'm so happy that you've been inspired to do that.
Wow. And Denise, I know that there was this really big event hosted by the Anti-Racism Committee, Racism with a Smile, how in terms of navigation for a Black person in a university. So tell us more about that event and what you felt about it.
To tell you that my favorite part of that event was when the camera went off. With I'm hoping I give everybody FOMO by saying that, because the discussion with behind doors was priceless. There's so much that there's just such a great space that was created for us to be very candid. And I also want to mention that space was not just racialized people. There were a lot of allies and accomplices that were actually in that space as well.
And faculty as well.
And faculty. It was, yeah, that was an amazing event. I think we all right now are a little hypersensitive or hyper aware of racism around us on campus. And so giving that avenue for people to not only hear and resonate or find something they can recognize in what was being said with, or shared by the panel, but also working together to like really start asking ourselves questions of, okay, so we're at this point, what else can we do to continue to shake this tree, and let's not let things get complacent or die down, or, you know, so continue to fan fuel to fire. So yeah. Yeah. I'm done.
No problem. So no, I really resonated with the fact that, you know, you're hosting events, you know, not to, well, partly to raise awareness for certain issues, but to also keep the momentum going. And I think, you know, that's one of the key things. And not, you know, if you believe in something and you want to raise awareness, but you also want to keep the momentum going. And it seems that both of you are actually doing that through your research as well. So in your personal life, but also in your academic life as well, which I said earlier, I think is really, really cool and interesting. And I was, you know, in the final minutes of our talk, like looking to hear a little bit more about what, like the details of both of your research. And I'll start with Francesca there, and then we'll go into Denise.
So as a music performance student, I technically don't really have like an actual like thesis or something that I have to write or research into. My milestones for my degree are like the recitals that I present. So with that in mind, I've recently I started my own project where I've been like interviewing BIPOC women and non-binary classical musicians, and we just kind of talk about like their stories, why they went into classical music, and you know what they think we can do to make the classical music industry more equitable, because when you think about classical music, you think about white dudes, right? So like so I so that it's something that's I've always thought about, because like I love what I do. I'm an opera singer. I love singing opera. And the thing for me is that like obviously I don't see people like me represented in this art form that I love so much. So I wanted to see, and I wanted to just open up that discussion and find ways that we can start, you know, like showcasing music by women, music by BIPOC composers, music that's just not like, you know, the whole like Mozart, Beethoven, blah, 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 blah. So like even with my own recitals, I am always trying to incorporate, you know, composers that aren't usually heard. So this year I'm doing a set by a man called Alberto Hemzi. He was a Sephardic Jew, and his music is beautiful, and it was also heavily censored during World War II because he was Jewish. So not a lot of people do it. So it's just stuff like that, just getting it out there and like presenting it. And I just really hope that throughout that work and through my own little research, I hope to, you know, even encourage more people to like look into those different avenues. Like classical music, yes, it started in this tradition of Western European culture, but it's evolving, you know, and it's still evolving. And as much as like, yes, like tradition in especially with classical music, I understand that it matters. I also think that the art form is and should be evolving, because we as a society are evolving. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are almost at the end of our terrific discussion, but I had just a couple more questions, but I'll be quick. The first one was, we have 5 commissioners, so both of you are here, and we have another episode with Genevieve and Elizabeth and Shannon, who are our Pride Commissioner, Accessibility, and Indigenous Commissioner. And I was just wondering, how does it feel to work together, and what is that experience like for both of you?
I'll let Denise turn.
Yeah, so to work together with all the other different commissioners.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly believe it's almost the true definition of inclusion. I learned so much. We just had a accessibility training yesterday that was like amazing. And you know, doing events with Stan and Thomas, you know, has really also opened my eyes to just the whole LGBTQ queer space. And yeah, it's been amazing. It really has been very eye-opening and challenging as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not to just stay in your little silo, or just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, learning how to be an accomplice for other marginalized groups, not just racialized groups. So it's been a great learning experience for me.
Awesome. And as a final question, if you are comfortable sharing your contact information, how can viewers, all of us graduate students, reach out to you if they have questions, or do you have any website to share, for example?
Well, I mean, everybody can always email me at my SOGS email, gender.concerns@sogs.ca. If you want, you can reach out on my Instagram too. You know, I'm always there. I'm always on. It's Francesca Alex, I think. And yeah, if you're interested also in like my little research project, it's just it's tiny now, but we're going. It's under the coloratura collective.org. Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, my email address is racial.equity@sogs.ca. Is that it? That's sogs.
Sogs.ca. Yeah.
.com? Oh.
.com? Oh my goodness. One of those. Oh no.
Oh no.
It'll be there in the description.
And okay, so again, racial.equity@sogs.ca. And then also our Facebook page, we have an advocacy Facebook page. So I encourage everybody to just also follow that page, because we will be putting up events up there and also just other resources for advocacy on that page.
Thank you so much, Denise and Francesca. It was wonderful having you on our show.
Thank you.
This has been Gradcast, the official radio show and podcast of the Society of Graduate Students at Western University. I've been your host, Yousuf, and my co-host was Francesco Colosimo. We've been speaking with Denise and Francesca, and this episode was produced by me. If you would like to be involved with the show or get in contact with us, email us at gradcastradio@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at gradcastradio. To listen to us, we're on the radio at Western Radio 94.9 FM. You can also find all of our episodes on our website at gradcast.ca or on podcast apps like Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Alternatively, select podcasts have been uploaded to YouTube at Gradcast Radio. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful night.